Chiapas is located in the southernmost corner of Mexico. In her hills and jungles live the original inhabitants of this land. And yet the indigenous people of this region continue to live beyond the edge, out of reach of any kind of economic development to which other sectors of the country might have access. Chiapas is a state rich in resources, in high-altitude coffee, timber, sheep and cattle, corn, beans, and other agricultural crops. And yet for the original inhabitants, Chiapas is poor in health, education, minimal sanitary conditions, food, clean water, basic respect for human rights, and justice. Like so many indigenous regions in Mexico, the local population's misery has been conveniently hidden from the public eye. But indicators in indigenous communities include an illiteracy rate of 51%, some 88% of the local inhabitants without drainage or sewage, 78% without electricity, 56% without access to running water, and 91% of the inhabitants living in homes with dirt floors. It is this kind of misery, suffered by the forgotten inhabitants of Chiapas, that has caused thousands of indigenous subsistence farmers to rise up in arms, reclaiming their rights and demanding justice in the Zapatista uprising, January 1st, 1994.
The indigenous problem in Mexico will only be resolved by profound changes, by a true revolution capable of modifying the social, economic, political, and above all, cultural relationships within our society. Cultural reality of the indigenous people is very powerful, but the racism used against the indigenous in Chiapas is very similar to, and in some cases even exceeds, the racism that we became accustomed to seeing with the application of apartheid in South Africa. It's just that in Mexico, this reality is less well known.
For months before the massacre in Acteal, members of the civil society Las Abejas and Zapatista sympathizers had been receiving threats of violence. Many have come under actual armed attack and have been forced to abandon their homes, losing most or all of their belongings, and relocating themselves in refugee camps.
Sufriendo aquí con todas las familias aquí. Hay como 130 por todos los niños.
Here we are suffering with our families. We are about 130 with the children and all. Here we are just waiting and praying to God that they don't come for us. All day long, all day long. Now we can't go to work in our fields, to harvest our corn or pick our coffee. Those who are against us, now they don't let us go out. Look there, from Pechiquil, we can hear their guns going off. It's terrible. They killed my wife and son. Look at how they left my little boy. Yesterday at 10 in the morning, everything was fine, but then at 10:30, the PRI came in shooting thousands of bullets. I haven't done anything. I don't steal, I don't fight with my friends, nothing. These poor people from the civil society, they were in the church. They must have been about 45 people. They all died, men, women, children.
Y también ya está cerrado su casa porque ya se murió con sus esposas y con sus hijos.
¿Por qué razón los agarraron a balazos?
No sé por qué.
I don't know why they killed them. That's just how the PRI is.
According to eyewitness testimonies, a group of nearly 100 members of PRI-backed paramilitary groups entered the community of Acteal on December 22nd, shooting randomly into the air. Men, women, and children dispersed in terror, seeking refuge. Unfortunately, no space was found safe nor sacred. In this abhorrently brutal act, 45 people were massacred. 9 men, 21 women, 14 children, and 1 baby were all found dead in a ravine just outside the community church. All had been killed by gunshot wounds of high-caliber arms and exploding bullets, issued for exclusive military use.
This is not my daughter. I'm only taking care of her out of pity. Poor thing, she has a broken leg. Her father and her mother both died in the attack. She was left an orphan. That's why I'm taking care of her, out of pity.
According to declarations made by the Human Rights Center, Fray Bartolomé de las Casas, the government is either incapable of controlling the violence or is an accomplice. And in the meantime, the toll of victims in Chenaló continues to rise. Estimates count as many as 8,000 persons now in local campamentos, seeking refuge from the violence directed against them in their own communities. More than 150 houses have been burnt to the ground, with the inhabitants losing all their belongings in the blaze. The death count from armed confrontation has surpassed 100. But that number continues to rise as diarrhea, cold, and pulmonary illnesses continue to claim the lives of young children and the elderly who live in the difficult conditions of the refugee camps.